Welcome back to the Project Freelance podcast. What is up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you're doing well. If you had a commute this morning, if you're on your commute this morning, welcome to the podcast. It's time for another one. Buckle up, put that seatbelt on, and get cruising. So this week on the podcast, I'm speaking with Ryan of Rydronemedia. He is a drone pilot, certified and insured. Thank you very much. And today we're going to be talking about how to get drone certified, how to get clearances for things and waivers and the whole process. So if you are an up and coming drone pilot, this episode is going to be absolutely super important for you. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Before we get started, just a couple things. Firstly, I have a book out called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. It is a photography book full of photos and stories from my urban exploration missions around the world. I would love for you to pick up a copy. I'll sign it for you and send it out to you. Also, I had just got new merchandise made with a brand new logo for just the letter K. If you guys are interested in repping my brand and supporting what I do, you can head to the link in the description that says merch. It will send you over to my merch store. You can pick up a shirt, a hoodie. We have face masks that say stay back on them. So we've got all kinds of stuff over there. Definitely check out the merch, pick up a shirt if you're interested. And secondly, or thirdly, I don't know what number this is, but I have to thank our partner, Liquid Death Water. If you guys don't know what Liquid Death Water is, don't worry. You've got an ad coming at you in 3, 2, 1. From the streams of the Austrian Alps comes a new kind of water. A water that is sure to raise you from your grave. If you're tired of buying cases of plastic water bottles that contain carcinogens and God knows what else, or if you're trying to lower your waste footprint, Liquid Death comes in beautifully rugged aluminum cans. Murder your thirst with a can of Liquid Death. Check the link in the description and use code JustTheLetterK at checkout for 10% off your order. Liquid Death. Murder your thirst. All right, so like I said, if you want to check out Liquid Death, there's a link down in the description. Use code JustTheLetterK for 10% off your order. All right, let's jump into this episode with Ryan. Can you please introduce yourself and what it is you do to the Project Freelance audience?
Cool. Well, my name is Ryan. I own Rydronemedia, LLC. Obviously, I am a Part 107 pilot, basically just doing any kind of drone work that's available, commercial real estate, weddings, and then just obviously just selling prints and stuff like that.
So take me back to the beginning of your photography exploration. You do drones, you're a Part 107. We'll get into all of that. But when did you start doing photography? When did you start creating content?
Actually not too long ago. I'd say probably 2019. So it's only been about a year or so. And I don't really have a huge background in photography. I've diddled in it a little bit, but I don't have any kind of super good training on it. I use a Canon T3i, so it's, a little old school. But from there, it's droning is really the only thing that I do with it. I'm not even considered a professional. I don't think I consider myself a professional because, as most people know, I think it's all in the post edit that makes the pictures, really stand out on everything. But yeah, about a year or so ago, I worked, a full-time job. So it was kind of just something I did on the side. And then I recently just quit that job, to try and do this full-time. And hopefully it'll pick up a little bit, but with everything going on, it's a little crazy.
Yeah. And have you, despite, COVID and all that stuff, have you been going out and exploring and flying your drone and still creating?
I do. I try as much as possible. Atlanta's weather is a little weird. It's a little bipolar because it'll be 100 degrees and sunny, and then out of nowhere it'll just start pouring. And the weather reports obviously are usually never accurate for that case. But yeah, as much as possible. It's just Atlanta's kind of weird too because unless you're actually in the city, there's a ton of airports and Air Force bases and stuff kind of on the outskirts. So, unless you're driving to Atlanta or you're driving like an hour north, you can't really get a whole lot of good areas. So that's kind of the only problem, is that it's like once you get a lot of stuff around this area, you have to go pretty far to find anything that's available. So as much as I can, it's still difficult. Atlanta traffic, you sit in that for 2 hours. So it's a little wild, but as much as possible, just trying to find stuff that I haven't seen before. Just use Google Maps to see if there's anything weird on there, Google Earth or whatever.
What made you want to get into drones in the first place? Like, what kind of inspired you, or who inspired you to pick up a drone and give that a shot?
So I got one of those really cheap drones. They were probably like $30 or $40 that you got off Amazon a couple years ago, and never really did anything with it. And then I finally opened it one day and I was like, screw it, I'm going to go ahead and play with it. And then started playing with it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. Needless to say, I lost that one because it was the first one, so it's somewhere in the woods right now. But after that, I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, I enjoy doing this, like just like kind of having the control over it and the creativity and getting that new perspective of it. So just that's kind of where it started. Maybe about 2 or 3 years ago is when that was. And from there, it just kind of like picked up, and then, started doing stuff, trying to get this new just perception of stuff and see kind of what other people thought about it, from there, it's just kind of, I'm trying to build the business. Obviously, it's kind of a new business. I just incorporated it last year, so it's not been around for too long. But other than that, I think it's just the creativity and having the freedom to kind of do, kind of whatever you want with it. And there's not as many limitations as you would think, obviously, besides the FAA rules and all that stuff. Yeah.
And even with like the FAA rules, for those of you that don't know, that are listening to this, you can get things like waivers to fly in certain areas, things like that. So let's talk about getting your Part 107. Where did you, what course did you take, if you took one? Where did you test at? Can you just talk about the process of actually getting your Part 107?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, like everybody else, I think it's pretty nerve-wracking before you do it, because you hear all the horror stories about the charts and everything like that. But I bought a guide off Amazon. Actually has a guide. Some company uploads a product every year for whatever the testing material is. So I bought a book off there, and then actually bought the course off Drone Launch Academy, which they have a guarantee that if you buy the course and then you take the Part 107 and you fail it, they pay you back that money, if that's the case. But generally, it's the test is not that hard. So I got the study materials, did that course, studied probably for about 3 or 4 weeks, just to make sure I was really good on the charts and airspace and all that stuff. And then went down to the Cobb County, it's KYY airport facility down here. You have to take the Part 107 courses at airports or facilities that offer that. So did that, just went in a room by myself. It was kind of like testing in school when you're like, it was really weird because they put you in that room. I'm sure you've done it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just put you in that room and put a video camera on you and make sure that you're not cheating. And then, about an hour later, it's like you go in and they give you your test score and let you know. But that was pretty much it. It was pretty simple. The test wasn't near as hard as people think it is. At least I didn't think it was after I took it.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I was definitely anxious about it before, just because I was like, oh my God, there's so much. But once you figure out how to read a chart and read all the signs and everything, it's pretty straightforward, but I think it's super fascinating that in order to fly a drone, you basically have to become a pilot.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think a lot of people who are drone pilots are actual pilots too, or they've done some kind of Cessna course or whatever to do that. And yeah, it makes sense. It's absolutely my problem, I think, is that a lot of people don't have Part 107s and they just do a bunch of stuff and they don't really pay attention to the laws and legalities of it, which kind of makes it harder for actual Part 107 or people who have businesses to kind of do their work on it. So that kind of gets annoying too, just seeing people sell prints and stuff that don't have a valid license, which is completely illegal. But I don't really know what the FAA does about that, because it's minuscule for the most part, I feel like.
Yeah, you can't take their license away. They don't have one.
Yeah, exactly. All you can do is just yell at them and be like, hey man, this isn't cool.
Yeah, and give them a fine maybe. It's crazy, as somebody, I can totally relate to that. I see friends, even like close friends of mine, flying their drones over like the freeway, like the turnstiles on the free or whatever they're called, like the loop-de-loops on the freeway. And I'm like, you can't fly over that. What are you doing?
Yeah. Completely. And I don't understand, like Instagram, especially, like you go and you find all these people like flying over stadiums that clearly states you can't fly over that. So I want to call people out sometimes just to be, I don't want to be a dick, but it's like, come on. It's like, I hit up one guy and I was like, hey man, like how hard was it to get your night waiver? Cause he was taking all these pictures of Atlanta at night. And I was like, how hard was it to get your night waiver? And he's like, because he was selling the prints, and that's why I initially hit him up. And he's like, "Oh, I don't have one. I'm a hobbyist." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's illegal to sell your prints and not have it." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm working on getting it." And I was like, "All right, well, I'm working on a lot of stuff too. That doesn't mean I'm going to go do it, But I don't know if maybe I am a dick. I don't know.
No, I think it's totally valid, like whether people think you're a dick or not, like it's a completely valid point. And I think that anybody that has a license feels the same way. It's like driving a car with no license. Like you just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not likely you're going to get caught, but if you do, I mean, the fines are steep. I've read about it. And like real estate agents who fly their drones and sell a house, if they're not licensed, they can get fined to like $11,000 per instance.
What? Wow,
yeah,
good.
It's fucking crazy. So it's if you get caught, I mean, the fines are ridiculous from the FAA if you do get caught. I mean, obviously they probably do it for people who are selling stuff at high costs and like just completely being, a nuisance to it. But yeah, it's crazy. Like I try to fly as safe as possible, and like I'll get to some places and be like, I can't fly here, like even as much as I want to. Like it's not legal, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and for those of you listening that are drone enthusiasts, if you're trying to get your Part 107, definitely check out the app Kitty Hawk. I'll put a link down in the description. Kitty Hawk is basically a Google Maps type of thing, but it shows you all the airspace. And you can actually plan your flights, and you can put in an address or coordinates, and you can see the airspace there and like the limitations if you're allowed to fly. And for me, like an example of, even like losing out on business to non-certified pilots because they'll fly anywhere. I had an offer to fly for some car shots, like some tracking shots up in Malibu here in California, going down this freeway called the PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway. It goes right down the ocean, super beautiful views, but you can't fly by the PCH. You can't fly anywhere in Malibu. It's all protected land. It's basically like a natural reserve. And so I was trying to explain to this guy that was trying to hire me that like, hey, I can't fly here. We would have to go northwest of Malibu, like really, really far. And if he wants to fly, and he never hit me up. And then yesterday he hit me up and he was like, hey, we got the shots. Thanks so much. We'll hit you up in the future. Man. And I'm like, I know he found somebody that is not licensed and insured to fly over the fucking PCH, man.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. And you know what? I think you can get waivers for those locations, but it's a pain in the ass. I mean, I don't have any night waivers because I just don't think flying at night, I really have a purpose for it for the most part. But it's like, apparently it takes up to like 90 days, sometimes even longer to get those. And I heard they only approve a very small percentage of people who apply for it. So even if you applied for it, like my business may not even get approved because there's not enough. You have to do risk mitigation, basically like send them like chapters of how you're going to do your process and what your flight risks are and all that kind of stuff. So it's a huge pain is what I've heard. So, but that sucks, man. That would be really awesome. And that sucks.
Tell me about it. Yeah. I was a little frustrated, but I was like, I'll just get the next one. It's not that big of a deal, but I mean, as somebody that is certified and insured, it kind of just like is a slap in the face. You're like, well, okay. Like, thanks for that.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But so what kind of stuff do you fly for? Like, are you doing real estate? Are you doing inspections? Like, what kind of stuff do you do with your drone?
Actually, right now, I'm just doing anything that I can get. I just did a wedding recently. So that was cool. It was interesting to do that. It's just weird because you can't really fly over people. So you have to do it. You have to be careful about how you do it. But I did a wedding, and then I bid on a couple gigs to do like apartments I've got a couple of media companies that I work with that do a lot of the ground photography. Since that's not my forte, I generally will get those guys to come in with me if I get a gig and say, hey, they need some ground photos or, interior photos or whatever. So I kind of try and work with other companies too, to say, hey, like I do the drone work because you guys aren't licensed. So anything like that. Right now, I'm just flying a Phantom 3 SE. And I think I'm going to get that Mavic 2 Pro here soon so that I can do the roof inspections. What are you flying right now?
So I'm just on a Mavic Pro currently. I'm kind of running it until it dies or breaks or wears out, and then I'm going to upgrade to the Mavic Pro 2 or, whatever comes out next. But I think the Mavic Pro 2, would you get the Zoom, the Mavic Pro 2 Zoom?
I went in. I've read more that the regular one is a little bit better. Okay. I've watched tons of YouTubes and everybody else's reviews on this because it's one of those things. Like if you're going to spend the money on it and drop $2,000, $3,000 or whatever, right. You want to make sure you get the one that works. The Zoom. The Zoom said it's good, but from what I've read and watched people do, it seems like just the regular Pro 2 is the one to go with. So that's probably what I would end up going with.
No, I like that. And I love that you are doing your research. Like you said, if you're going to invest that money, you need to get the right gear for what you're doing. So as far as your gigs go, where are you finding them? And like these media companies, where are you finding them? Is it like online? Do you go through Upwork? Like what is your process?
Yeah, that's actually, it's funny you say that because one of the gigs I just bid on was through Upwork. So Upwork is one of them. There's a couple other ones, obviously like Drone Base, and then Bees 360 is like a roofing inspection that uses. Basically, their app is integrated into the DJI app, so everything's autonomous. You basically just draw your circle around the roof, and it'll fly up there and do all the measurements and take all the pictures that you need for it. So it's super quick. Obviously, roofing I think is kind of the next thing that I want to get into really big because it seems like that'll be good as far as money and investment wise. But other than that, it's pretty much just like word of mouth, or like I said, I got these other media companies that will hit me up whenever they have gigs or stuff that they need a drone operator for. Obviously posting on social media if people need stuff that way. Just basically trying to find anywhere you would think that they would need it, because I don't know about you, but when I first started getting into it, you never really notice all the drone shots that are in commercials and all that kind of stuff. And then once you get it, you're like, drone. So it's like, I was like, sweet, I can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think it's really just, like I said, I'm in the beginning stages, so I haven't had a ton of work actually come up. I just, the Instagram pictures, I just try to make myself look really, really good. So
yeah, you're doing a great job. Your Instagram is beautiful. Like I love everything that you've been posting, and I've been checking it out, here and there. And I love like your creativity, like with that hockey shot, like, dude, that's sick. I love it.
It's weird because I love hockey, and obviously Georgia doesn't have a hockey team anymore. Yeah. But this hockey field is outside. So I guess in the winter, because Georgia doesn't really get a whole lot of snow or anything. But this hockey field was outside. I was like, that's really interesting that they have this, outside.
That's so fascinating. So what are some of the like weirder things that you've flown over or cooler things that you've flown over that you care to mention?
Cool things. There was one, I posted a video on it recently. It's like a old powder coating factory. Kind of really weird because it's just like a big empty barn, and it looked like something that would be in like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. So I thought that was really cool. So flew over that, and it's interesting to get like these views on top of things that you normally wouldn't be able to see, and just like see how old it is, or just kind of see the any kind of marks or anything that you wouldn't see otherwise. I don't really fly over too much crazy, interesting stuff. Like Georgia's interesting because it's a lot of trees, and a lot of the cities are the same. So it's like you don't really have a ton of tall buildings around here. You've got your forests and stuff like that, and then like if you go to the city, obviously you've got that. But I think the city's weird because there's so many people down there that I feel like it's very difficult to get good shots without either being approached by somebody or having somebody get under you or whatever it might be. What was the other part of your question?
I think that was it. Just like weird or cool things you've flown over.
Yeah, I mean that's it's just anything that looks abandoned or just looks like people wouldn't normally take pictures of it. I think those are always interesting. Like water towers too. I like taking pictures of water towers because you don't really get that perspective of being up there.
Right.
And they're so big from the ground. So other than that, I mean, it's nothing super weird. I mean, Georgia's a pretty boring place, so.
And then I see you've done some billboards. Have you done any like commercial work as far as like capturing billboards? I've done a couple things here and there, and they're always like a little bit difficult just because it's like you got to get that right angle, that right perspective. And so have you done any like commercial work as far as like billboards and stuff goes?
I haven't. If you want to tell me how to get in that'd be awesome.
I mean, I just got my gig off of Upwork. It was like 2 years ago.
Right.
I was flying a Phantom 3 Pro, and they were like, "Hey, we have this billboard by the freeway. Can you go film it?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, that's cool. No, I haven't. I took that one of the queso just because everyone loves cheese and queso. I was like, cool, let's get this. This is cool. But yeah, you're right. The angles. I mean, it's that's another thing too that I found is flying is like it's like it doesn't take long to get shots, but it takes a long time to get the right shot. So it's like you can fly up and just take a bunch of pictures, but obviously, yeah, if your angle's not correct or you're not doing the rule of thirds or whatever you might be doing to get that, then yeah. So it took me a couple tries to actually get that one that I have on my Instagram, but I haven't got any commercial gigs doing that, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, any composition, like doing composition stuff as far as like getting that right field in your camera on the drone, it's so much more difficult than it would be from the ground, Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, they've got the grids on some of the remotes and stuff that you can put on there, but even then it's like, I don't, so you're looking up at the drone and looking at the screen and it's drone, so.
Yeah, there's just a lot of moving parts, and it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Absolutely.
So what other occupations have you had while you were trying to get into droning?
Actually, I just worked my last job as a sales manager at a merchandise company for T-shirts and stuff. So I did that for about 6 years.
Wow.
Before that, I toured with a bunch of bands, which is actually, I don't think we actually met, but I know like the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus guys.
Yes.
So I did the Hope Revolution tour back a couple years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I'm pretty sure that you were there because Justin, who does their photography and stuff too, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, we toured with them a long time ago. And I think that's somehow how I found you on social media. Just somebody tagged you or whatever. And I was like, oh, I think they were taking pictures of the show.
Yeah, man, it's a small world out there.
Very small. But, yeah, I mean, that's the last gig I had was doing that merchandising stuff. I just did that for the last 6 years. And before that was just touring. So I haven't really had a whole lot of other full-time gigs in the meantime, so hopefully this will pick up. And I don't know if Georgia is the best place for it. There are a lot of pilots out here, but again, like I said, a lot of them are unlicensed, uninsured. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and again, for those of you listening to this, if you need drone insurance, there are apps that can give you insurance literally on the spot. Like, let me see if I can find.
Skywatch.ai.
Yeah. Skywatch.
That's the one I use. That one's actually really good because you can pay monthly. Like if you go out and you drone a lot, you can do monthly, or they let you do it, like you said, on demand, where you just go to a place and say, hey, I just need insurance for an hour. Yeah. And then you can pick your limit from 500,000 to 10 million or whatever it is. But they're pretty good. It seems like they're a pretty good one. I'm sure there's a couple other that you may know that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah. I mean, I use Skywatch as well. That's the one I've got. And I think it's been the best so far. Like I'm kind of similar to you. I'm just kind of getting into the drone work area, and so I'm trying to, I don't want to spend like however much money a year on insurance when I'm not flying enough to justify that. So with apps like Skywatch, like you're able to do it on demand, and so thank you to Skywatch for creating that app, and for other apps that are similar to that. Like it's really helping the up and coming drone pilots stay protected and in a way that is affordable and reliable. So yeah, thank you guys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I know you mentioned Kitty Hawk earlier. Are you familiar with AirMap? Is that anything that you use?
AirMap? No, tell me about it.
So AirMap is basically the same thing where you can go in. Let me just look at it so I can explain while I'm doing it.
For sure.
It's very similar. So you go in there and you set up your flight plan essentially, and you say, hey, I'm going to fly. You can choose your mission, actually recreational or Part 107. And then you choose, basically it has a map and you just choose your location where it's going to be, and it will let you know and identify if there's any restricted airspace in there or any TFRs or anything that you can't fly there for any reason, or it'll let you know if it's good to fly there. And then you can just submit your flight through that. So it's basically the same thing as Kitty Hawk, essentially just letting you know where active airspace is at, or what airspace you're allowed to fly in and what you're not allowed to fly in. Similar. So I think they might be even coexisting throughout the same company that created them. I'm not positive, but very similar to that. And I use that. That's my main one to let me know kind of what areas are legal to fly. And you can also get the LAANC, LAANC, which is the automatic approvals. So if there's a place that you need to fly, you can go ahead and submit that, and the airspace will automatically approve or deny you, depending on your flight.
Yeah. For the LAANC or the LAANC, I don't know how to say it, but for those, they do give you like a limitation with how high you can fly, just so you guys are aware. They'll say like, yeah, you're approved for this time slot, and I think you have to submit like 48 hours ahead of time or something like that. Like
you only have to do it if you're trying to get authorization above what the allowable altitude is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So if you go to a place and some places you still have to submit for it. So if you're in an air zone that has, say, a 100-foot flight restriction, you still have to be approved for that airspace. Right. But they'll do it automatically. There's usually never any issues with it. But if you wanted to go to 150, yes, generally within 24 or 48 hours prior to your flight, you want to submit that so that they can manually review that and give you access to it.
Yeah, and hopefully, the FAA will catch up with that, and we'll be able to submit with less time so that we don't have to wait 90 days before a shoot, because oftentimes we're getting these gigs last minute, and it's like, well, can you wait 90 days for me to get a waiver?
Exactly. And nobody's planning out 90 days in advance to get a drone pilot, and I think they're actually trying to, I think they're trying to make it to where waivers are going to be a little bit faster, to where it's like you can get automatic approvals,
Sweet.
Via an app or something. I think I read something about it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think that's the direction they're eventually going to go, which would be awesome, But I think they're also going to, because they're doing something, the remote pilot IDs, where I think they're starting to ID every drone that's in the air.
Wow.
Coming up. So that way, if you are flying illegally, they can automatically just catch your drone and say, hey, we're geofencing this, and then basically stop you from flying.
Wow. It's amazing. Yeah. Like, the technology is so advanced, and it's only going to get more advanced. And for everyone out there that is not certified and is flying illegally, like, you guys are about to get shut down. So just get your license. Like, just invest the whatever $268 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
just get your license. $250, $260, depends where you go. Just get your license. Like, it's good to have that knowledge. It's cool to learn. You're learning another language, like you're learning how to read aeronautical maps. You're learning about TFRs. You're learning about like exclusion zones. You're learning about all this stuff, and it's just another element that you can not only add to your resume, but I mean, you have a certification. Like, once you have a certification, you can do so much more with it. So for those of you out there, just get your license. It's not difficult. Like, just do it.
Yeah. And I think it's what was I going to say? Basically, it's like, there shouldn't be a reason you shouldn't get it, like it's like you just said, you get a lot of education out of it. You learn, it's like another language. It's awesome. So I think the way you put it was actually incredible.
Thank you. So have you ever been screwed over on a gig?
No, luckily I have not.
Woohoo! Next question.
But that's probably not a good thing, because I feel like you kind of need that experience to kind of figure out how to go along with it. Like, I haven't had enough job opportunities to have that situation occur. But I think it'd be interesting to do, just to learn kind of the process of what to do in that situation. So I'm sure you have, which is why the question came up. Yeah.
Yeah. I, not like a drone gig or anything, but just to like go over it briefly. I got hit up by Hypebeast, who does like Supreme, and they do all the streetwear stuff. And they were like, hey, we have a new fall line coming out. We would love for you to do our photos. We'll send you a check for this amount of money. You will then pay the modeling agency this amount of money out of that check, and then you will take the remainder. I was like, cool, sounds good. That's great. So they sent me a check, and I took the cash out, right? Brought it to their bank, deposited it for the models. Turns out the check was fraudulent, so they ended up having to take the money from me. So,
Yikes.
And it wasn't actually Hypebeast. It was a company posing as Hypebeast. So it was completely a complete scam. It was a complete scam.
Where did you find the listing at?
On Upwork. God damn it.
Shoot. Well, shit.
I know. But I learned a couple things from that. Don't take work off of Upwork is the number one thing, because that's what I did. I was like, well, I can handle this.
I guess I'll cancel that bid then.
Yeah, exactly. So just do your due diligence. Like maybe tweet somebody at the company and be like, what's up? Stoked to be flying drones for you or taking photos for you. And if they're like, who the fuck are you? Like, then that kind of gives it away.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, but and then the one thing I did after that, I actually made it almost happened again, like a second time, and I was like, nope, I'm not letting this happen. So I turned my camera on and I started like vlogging. I was like, hey guys, like I think I'm getting scammed, so I'm gonna see this process through.
You know what? I feel like I may have watched that video.
Yeah, and
I feel like I did.
And I think it helped a lot of people like understand that this is something that happens frequently. I've had people comment like, oh my God, I just got scammed. I wish I had seen this video before, you know, like it's something that happens frequently, especially with the internet. Like you can be anybody on the internet.
You know what? That's funny you mentioned that, because my mom actually got an email from her friend who lives at the trailer park in Florida and was like, hey, I need some Google Play gift cards for my daughter because she's sick. I need you to go ahead and buy me 2 $100 gift cards. Well, my mom, bless her heart, is a dumbass and bought the gift cards. And then she goes, well, now she's saying she needs two more $200 ones. And I was like, Mom. So she lost a couple $100, but you're absolutely right. Like you never know. And it's like, you know, just, you got to watch out. You know, the internet's a crazy place. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's awesome, but it's also terrifying.
Absolutely. So how about internships? Have you ever had an internship, or have you ever mentored anybody?
I have not.
All good. I was an intern for a little while. I was a personal like assistant to a photographer, and that's why I asked that question. I'm just curious, you know, if other people out there have done that kind of stuff. You should absolutely get a mentor though. Like I would highly recommend it, whether it's another drone pilot or another creative. Like I think that it can really add a lot of value to not only your education side, but also to your life. Like having somebody that you can just bounce your business ideas off of, your personal ideas off of. So definitely I would consider trying to find your person.
Would you consider mentors also like just friends in the business?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So like I said before, I work with a couple of people, media companies and stuff. And some of my good friends own their own media companies. So they'll hire me on, but they'll teach me a bunch of stuff. You know, if I ever take the T3i out, they're like, oh, you know, here, go adjust your ISO and you do this and do that. So they're kind of like the influencer for me, I guess.
For sure.
But never anybody who like specifically I'm like, hey, like, here's business plans, business ideas. Let's go back and forth and like sit down and have a one-on-one with that. Mostly because I don't want to pay somebody. So
for sure. Well, see, that's the thing with a mentor. Like you're not paying them. They get something mutually from you as well. Like you, for example, can offer them like, to assist them on a shoot or whatever, or, you know, work at a discounted rate in order to get that experience. And it's not like you're just working for free when you start out. Mentorship is a little bit different because you're getting something from them and they're getting something from you. So
yeah, experience and knowledge. So it's the value versus a monetary.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
And then who are some of your influences as far as, you know, other drone pilots go or other creatives?
I watch a lot of stuff on Peter McKinnon stuff.
Because he's great.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he doesn't do a ton of drone stuff, but he does, you know, a couple of videos here and there. But I mean, just his creative elements, his composition, just like his color grading and everything is like, just his videos are awesome. Yeah. I do watch a couple other like drone stuff, like Ken Herron does a lot of drone stuff, but he's kind of a quirky guy. I don't know. He looks like he played in like a ska band back in 1980 or something. those are two main ones. I don't know if I have any that I specifically like really like focus on or think that are like super, super amazing. I mean, right. I think anybody on YouTube, not anybody on YouTube, but I mean, most of these people who post these videos and have experience, knowledge or whatever are just, they're basically mentoring through YouTube.
Exactly.
You know? And I think that's cool. So I try to watch as much as possible. So I'm not like just saying, okay, this guy's way is the right way to do this, or this guy knows exactly how to color grade the right way. So it's kind of just open, just if there's anything on there, any artist or any, visual artist or creative or whatever that has any influence or that I find attractive, that's the kind of stuff I'm going to watch and see if I can learn anything from.
Absolutely. Yeah. And going back to Peter real quick, like I'm trying to get him on this podcast. I would love to talk to him. So if anybody listening knows Peter, please tell him to hit me up because I have questions.
I'll just send him a whole bunch of emails every day until he does it.
Hey, you know what? That's what Elon Musk's assistant did. She just sent him email after email until he was like, fine, I'll hire you. So
there you go. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's the way to go, man.
Just bug the shit out of people till they say yes.
Exactly. All right. So do you have any questions as a freelancer? Like anything that you want to know about or anything that, maybe I can help answer for you?
Well, because I know you've been in the photography business for a long time. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So basically, I don't know. I guess just to try and get more work. Like I said, this is a pretty new venture for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get over some of the anxiety of it too, because there's a lot of times where I could get really anxious about jobs or whatever. Like, am I going to be able to do this? Is it going to turn out good? How did you get over like the anxiety of like flying certain places or getting hired to somebody who's kind of like bigger up and just kind of in that situation?
Yeah. So I get anxiety before I fly, like every time I get butterflies because it's nerve-wracking. You're flying a really expensive piece of equipment. Like I get it, it's kind of frightening, but the more you fly, the better you'll get, the more confident you'll get. I've definitely felt my anxiety go down over the past couple of years, which has been really cool. As far as like finding gigs and that kind of stuff, I'm actually in a bunch of Facebook groups, like drone pilots for hire. I need a drone pilot. There's so many different Facebook groups, and I don't really like Facebook, but it is good for groups. Right. It's great for Facebook groups.
And that's interesting because I don't really use it very often, and I'm kind of against. I was kind of against social media for a very long time until I kind of started this, and I was like, you know what? I guess I have to put it somewhere. But just like the anxiety of using Facebook to I don't know. It's just weird to me. Social media is just interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely.
What about? So you're in California now, correct?
Yes.
And I saw you traveled to Portugal. Was that last year?
Yeah.
How was that?
Actually, it was 2018. It was amazing. That was before I was certified. So, and plus you need a different certification to fly overseas. So I was technically doing everything illegally. So sorry about it. But
so all you Part 107.
I was the person we talked about earlier in the podcast, basically.
Yeah, that's funny.
But I mean, we've all been there, but I definitely know better now, which is great. Yeah. I've learned a lot, and I definitely, going back to Portugal will be something that happens. My dad wants to retire in Portugal, so I'm definitely going to look into getting certified over there as well for when I go visit him, so that I can fly over there properly and legally. Portugal was absolutely beautiful, though. It's definitely one of my favorite places that I've ever been to. It's just the people are amazing. There's a lot of abandoned things, and like as we all know, abandoned stuff is my shit. So it was absolutely amazing. And then just to go back to finding gigs, there is another site called Loveland Innovations, and they are similar to Dronebase. You basically apply to get access to their website. They vet you, and then they will get you in as, they're kind of like an agency basically. So they will push job assignments to you through email. So I just signed up for Loveland Innovations. So if you want to look into that, that's another one. And I think their app is also connected to like the DJI app as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Cool. And then my last question for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
Something I wish I knew now. Something I know now that I wish I knew when I started. I think just anything about the laws, just being, like that you can't fly over people and then you can't fly over moving vehicles and stuff like that. I think the safety is the biggest thing because, when you first get your first drone, you don't really care about it or think about it. But I'm glad I know all that information. And I think it's going to be extremely helpful to be successful, knowing what you can and can't do to make sure you get clients, because it'll help you get clients that are positive in the fact that you're licensed and insured. So I guess what I know now is just flying safe is important.
Absolutely. No, I feel the same way. Safety is extremely important when you're flying drones, especially. I mean, if you crash into somebody's car while they're driving, like that's going to be a catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, especially if their car then goes off the road and hits somebody else and somebody dies.
Yeah.
I mean, your insurance doesn't necessarily cover that. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of in a sticky situation there. So I think relatively, I don't know, just anything about it, just taking the Part 107 and learning all the stuff about airspace and just like the technicalities of it and stuff is interesting, to see. And like, you don't really think about how many airspaces and airports and stuff are around you, but you look at, these apps and you can see that they're just everywhere. So it's interesting to see that there's just airplanes and aircrafts and unmanned aircrafts and stuff all over the place that you just didn't even think about.
Yep. Helipads all over the place, especially out here in California, like downtown Los Angeles, every building has a helipad.
Yeah. How is it? So what is Los Angeles flying like? Are you able to fly in the city?
So you are able to fly in the city, but you're not supposed to fly in the city. Like so it's not like a geofenced no fly zone. So your drone will take off in the city, but you're just not supposed to fly there. So like before I got licensed, I flew there and then I learned that you can't fly there. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. So
what was the story behind that? Did somebody catch you?
Nobody caught me, but I just after learning that you couldn't fly in the city, I was like, oh wow. Okay. I definitely should not have done that. I should have looked into this beforehand. But like I said, like we've all been at the beginning phases trying to be a drone pilot. We've all done some dumb shit, I'm sure, but, definitely look into the laws before you fly, especially if it's in a big city. You can get clearance, and like I know in Nashville you can get Lance clearance to fly in the city, which is super interesting. But out here in LA, you're not supposed to fly in the city because of the helipads, because there are helipads everywhere. So right. For those of you out in Los Angeles, don't fly in the city. It's no bueno.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. It's crazy.
So if somebody wants to find you on social media or if they want to hire you to fly for them, how can they get a hold of you?
At Rydronemedia. So my Instagram is at Rydronemedia. You can Google it. My business is certified on Google. There's a phone number, email address. You just hit me up on there. Those are probably the easiest ways, just to Google it and then get the contact info on there, or social media at Rydronemedia. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, I did want to ask you, you're an LLC, right?
I am, yes.
Can you talk about that process a little bit, just getting your LLC? Like what steps did you take to do that?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, if you just Google how to get an LLC, there's a couple paperwork that you got to fill out. You have to have the state, I don't know, it's a state general has to notarize it, and then basically you pay a fee. It's super, super simple to do. If you just research how to become an LLC, there's links that you can go to your state agency, and basically you just fill out the information, pay a fee, and then a month later you'll get approved on it generally.
All right, guys, that was my podcast with Ryan of Rydronemedia. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on the podcast and sharing a little bit of your insight with everybody. I know you're still kind of a new drone pilot, but I think that you gave a lot of insight and you talked in depth about some things that I think will really help up and coming drone pilots out there. And remember, guys, don't fly in the city. Make sure you check the laws of your place that you live in, and just be aware, be safe, have fun. ultimately have fun. That's what this is all about. If you enjoyed this episode, please do me a huge favor and leave a rating and some feedback. It helps the podcast grow, especially on iTunes. We've got like almost 70 reviews. So if you take a second to review the show, leave some feedback, I will actually send you a signed photo print of mine, of a drone photo, or of a photo of an abandoned place that I've explored before. And all you got to do is take a screenshot of your feedback and DM it to me at Project Freelance on Instagram, and I will get that out to you as soon as possible. Also, if you guys didn't hear at the beginning, I have a book out called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary, where I have photos and stories from my urban exploration missions. If you guys are interested in that, you can go to notracers.com/shop and pick one of those up. And once again, thank you to Liquid Death for partnering with me for this podcast. If you guys want to try some Austrian Alp mountain water and murder your thirst, check out Liquid Death. Link will be down in the description. Use the code JustTheLetterK for 10% off your order. All right, guys, I will talk to you next Monday on Project Freelance. The show comes out every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button. Stay strong. Keep enduring. Go out and go create something.